Well, welcome everybody. We're so glad you're here. This is a great group this morning. We were just talking about our last business summit was kind of rained out. We had to look for emergency exits at one point. So so this is good. The sun is shining. Everybody's here. On behalf of HEDCO, the Hiawatha Economic Development Corp, and the EA, our Economic Alliance in Cedar Rapids, and Rebecca Sullins. Where did Rebecca go? She's in the back. So Rebecca and I and our city manager, Dennis Marks, have been talking about topics for this year, and this year AI kept coming up as a topic for business. So that's what we have here today. So welcome to our Hiawatha Business Summit. Today we're here to talk about how small and medium-sized companies can leverage artificial intelligence for growth. We're joined by Greg Edwards, who has spent 25 years setting industry benchmarks and securing businesses. Technology in an ever-changing landscape. And in 2017, he founded Canary, a cybersecurity game-changing, specializing in AI-based anti-ransomware solutions. So Greg is not your average entrepreneur. From disrupting the tech landscape and safeguarding data to battling cybercrime, Greg's ventures have consistently been at the forefront of innovation. Greg will be answering questions at the end for you for about 15 minutes. And as a side note, I want to invite everybody to State of the City on Thursday. So if you're interested in attending that and learning more about Hiawatha, just go to Eventbrite and you can buy tickets and register there. So please join me in welcoming Greg Edwards.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, everyone. It's got a good group here today. So I'll talk about what AI is today and where we're going, and then also how you can leverage AI in your small businesses, medium-sized businesses. And let's make sure we don't have any technical problems here. Let's start over. So the transformative impact of AI is over the next 25 years is going to impact how we think, how we work, and how we run our businesses. And when I say how we think, I mean it's already affecting the way that I think and the way that I interact with the world. And that's going to change exponentially over the coming years. And just thinking about even your drive-in today, like I now use my iPhone for maps. I know how to get here, but I click the address right off of my calendar, and it says I'm going to be there in 26 minutes. I live out in the country, south of Mount Vernon, and small things like that are going to increase exponentially, and we will all be interacting with AI on a daily, hour by hour, minute by minute basis. And I think that this impact is going to be in line with the changes that happened during the Industrial Revolution and electricity. That's how powerful I think this change is going to be now over the next 25 years. I don't want to scare anyone to think that this is coming tomorrow, because we're not there yet, but it is coming. I have people ask me all the time, how soon are we going to be to singularity? And I'll explain a little more about what that is, but that's the general AI. When you think of Jarvis and you think of a robot that's just going to do anything for you, my answer to that is generally 10 years from now, and in 10 years ask me again, and it'll probably be 10 years from now. I do think we may get there in 25 years, but again, ask me in 25 years, we'll see. So all of you have probably heard of and hopefully used ChatGPT. ChatGPT came out in 2002, in November of 2002, and exploded. And that's really changed the landscape of where we are today. And it's what's driven this mass use of what are called LLMs, so large language models. And just to give you an idea of how quickly that was adopted, cell phone utilization took 16 and a half years to get to 100 million users. The internet took 8 years to get there, so almost half of that. And since the advent of the internet, then things have steadily progressed. So Instagram took about 30 months to get, and again, this is from time of launch to get to 100 million users, which is, I mean, that used to be the benchmark of, okay, this is now a useful technology. That's not necessarily the case anymore. TikTok took 11 months. ChatGPT took 2.5 months from launch to get to 100 million users. So the speed at which technology is changing is happening so fast. And one concern that I have is that as a species, as a human species, like, we're not able to adapt that quickly. And so that's certainly a concern of mine with AI. And then when we go back to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and the difference between general AI and narrow AI. So what we have today with ChatGPT is what's called narrow AI. So this is AI that has one specific purpose. And with ChatGPT and all of the large language models that seems to be a new one coming on board every week, they are specifically addressing one function. And even when you think about Tesla and self-driving cars, I don't know if any of you have been in a Tesla self-driving car. It's to me, it's pretty amazing and very cool. Literally, you can push the button and it'll drive you autonomously from point A to point B, and doesn't need that much intervention. But again, that still is narrow AI. It can't make determinations based on anything other than the inputs that it's getting and then outputting the next small thing that it's doing. So it can't, if you say, I need to go to Europe, it's not going to make determinations of, okay, I need to drive you to the Cedar Rapids Airport, I need airport tickets, I need, it can't do all of that kind of planning. So that's the difference between general AI and narrow AI. And we're quite a ways away from general AI. And what we call that general AI is either artificial general intelligence, or it's been called singularity. That's where AI has the power to reason, think, has the same abilities as the human brain. We're way away from that being realistic. And even the way that the AI scientists are developing these models, they're not developing in a manner, and I'm not going to go into all the algorithms and details of how and why that is, but they're not currently developing in a way that's going to get us to that general AI. I do think that will change, and the at least theory of how that change can happen is well established, and the computing power is getting there to make that possible. But I just wanted to establish that, first of all, that we're quite a ways away from that general intelligence. So when we look back historically, I think of the printing press as being the start of all of this. When we think about the intelligence and the information that we consume, the printing press was invented in 1440. The first Gutenberg Bible, so it was Johann Gutenberg that invented the printing press. And it took from 1440, first book was the Bible that was printed. in 1455, and then it took until the mid-1800s before we had printing presses that could create newspapers at scale. So that was 400 years. And if you think about the power of that information and the dissemination of information, it changed the human race. And we're now at the pinnacle of Gutenberg's invention from 1440. Because now the language models that exist are able to understand and regurgitate any human language in a manner that is astonishing. So the things that you guys see from AI today are mostly all based on those large language models. And when we think about the part of the brain, part of the human brain that controls language, it's a very small area right here. And it's a tiny part of the human brain. It doesn't take much computing power in our head to form language and to write. And so it makes sense. It's actually pretty easy. This is the easiest component of artificial intelligence to develop. Now the rest of it and where we go from here, it's not going to take 400 years. I think it will take about 25 years, and we as business owners need to accept that it's happening, embrace that it's happening, and start implementing AI tools that we can today. So I've often been asked, and I have not had a good answer for this, of what do we call what we're doing? I mean, it's called singularity, general intelligence, but what are we creating? And this is a little bit, I don't want you to take this literally, but the best way that I can describe what we're creating is a new digital species. So there will be, again, now we talk scary part of where AI can go. There's going to be such a transformative change over the next 25, maybe even 40 years when these AI systems get to the point where they can plan and they can have the same level of intelligence that we have and way beyond what we have, then what is that? And I think it is a whole new digital species. So are we going to be able to control it? I absolutely think that we will be able to. And so I'm very optimistic about that. But we also have to realize that it's not just the United States that is creating these technologies. And even if we can put the regulations in place here in the US to help control it and maintain its parameters and guardrails, we have to think about what China, what Russia, what all the countries in Europe, what everyone else is doing. And I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we can actually agree on what all of those are. So we in the United States, we are way ahead of everyone else in the world, but we're not that far ahead. So it's good that we're ahead and we're going to see first what this all looks like as we project out that 25-year time period. So what does it mean today? And what can you do today with this? So from a cybersecurity standpoint, and that's my background, not only AI, but cybersecurity, I started creating in 2017 an application called Canary that detects and automatically stops ransomware. So it's actually a very simple, I'll say, system. It detects anomalous behavior that's happening that a typical user could not do and reacts to that. and kills that process of ransomware running. If you guys have probably all seen ransomware in the news, but essentially what it does is it takes all the files on your computer system and encrypts and locks them with a password so you can't access them. Can completely shut down a business in a matter of a few minutes. So that component is now very well commercialized and can detect and stop ransomware in milliseconds. So it's a game changer from that standpoint. Would I like to have every business in the world using it? Yes. Are they? Not yet. We're getting there. The other thing that I've seen in cybersecurity, so we also manage what's called a security operations center. And when I started that, we built out two different network operations centers that have the security component built into it. And it took 14 people to run that, at a minimum, 14 people to run a 24/7 NOC and SOC. That we've been able, on the security side, to reduce down from 14 to 1 person with AI. So that has been a massive impact to my ability to scale the cybersecurity services side of my business. So I've seen that impact over the last several years, and it's amazing. And it's not, I'll talk a little bit about job displacement, replacement too. But certainly some shifts there of what those folks did. And we had a center in India and then here in the United States, and most of those people moved into different jobs and some got fired, but not all, and we've replaced it. But we've replaced it with higher level folks that have higher paying jobs. So in media, I work with a company called Magid. So Frank Magid and Associates started here in Cedar Rapids 70 years ago, I believe. And Liz knows Magid well. What Magid has built is an AI system to help newsrooms to transform the news stories that they have. So you think taking one news story and a transcript from one news story and then disseminating that against other platforms, so Facebook, X, all the different digital platforms, you think, oh, that can't take that long. But it takes, these newsrooms have entire staffs that's all they do. And what Magid has built is an AI system to take and transform that data, that transcript, into all of those additional news stories. And they're able to take, and again, this is transforming what that newsroom looks like and what those folks in a newsroom do. But they've been able to take staffs of 7 and reduce that down to 1. Now, again, are those people losing their jobs? Most of them are getting repurposed and doing other things. Now, there are certainly some job cuts happening there, but it's not massive. And that's the way that I think all of you should think about how you can implement AI solutions in your businesses can it make us more efficient? Can we either replace or augment what's being done with the current staff and go capture more business? So the question of will AI replace tasks or jobs, I think, is important. And I think it's going to replace tasks. Now, there are reports that massive jobs will be laid off, and the next slide I have is actually on that. But what we're seeing right now is much more just transformation of jobs. So there's a group called Challenger, Gary, and Christmas that has been reporting on unemployment and the reasons for unemployment for over 50 years now. And their most recent report from April of this year, there were 800 jobs that were out of 77,000 layoffs in the United States in April. So 800 jobs that were attributed to AI as the reason for loss. So a very small fraction, and 5,430 over the trailing 12 months before that. So we're seeing some of it, but not a massive amount, and not to the level that there have been reports of. So Goldman Sachs came out with a report last year that said 300 million jobs would be replaced globally in the next 10 years. And that I don't believe is actually going to happen. Now, there's going to be some disruption in there and changes, but I mean, we have, I don't know exactly what our unemployment rate is as of today, but so low that all of you as business owners here would love to have more people available to hire, myself included. So I don't see that 300 million jobs being lost. I see it as replacement and see that we have to adjust to that. So what do I think that we should all be doing now? Certainly embracing ChatGPT. This presentation was created with a system called Beautiful AI. I created this presentation in about 20 minutes compared to if I had done this with PowerPoint, probably would have taken me an hour, hour and a half, something like that. So it's already making me much more efficient and has been for years and years, and I would encourage all of you to embrace that. Pipedrive is a CRM system that I use that I'll talk more about here in the growth phase. So from a growth standpoint, there's going to be massive disparity, which we see already, but companies that are able to leverage and utilize AI are going to grow exponentially, in my opinion, and those that aren't are going to get left behind. So glad that you're all here today thinking about this and figuring out how do you implement that in your companies. And what I'm going to go through today are things that I myself have either used, tried, or am currently implementing. So I'll talk about sales, customer service. I have some strong opinions about the customer service side of things and where that'll go. And then efficiencies that I think you can all be picking up. So from a sales standpoint, really bringing in leads, utilizing a CRM system, and then content creation are where I see you can implement these today. So from a leads standpoint, the one that I currently use is a system called Apollo AI. Now, all of these three systems on here, Apollo, Seamless, and ZoomInfo, they essentially, every time you do a Google search or you look for anything on the internet, that information about you is being collected. And so what these companies do are they're buying that data from Google. They have their own bots that are collecting that data. It's a little creepy, but if you want to stay competitive, I think that you need to be utilizing systems like this. So they use predictive analytics to determine buying intent. And there's dozens and dozens of these companies. The one I like the least on this list is ZoomInfo. Some of you may be using it, but they have some practices that I don't like in how they run their business. But I do think that if you guys are in sales, which we're all in sales, that you should be looking at these lead generation systems and how to implement them into your practices. So from a CRM system, so now you get the leads, and there's a blending between these lead generation systems and the CRM systems now. The one that I like the most, and I've used all three of these. Started out using Salesforce back in the late aughts of the 2000s, then switched to HubSpot, and now currently using a system called Pipedrive. Again, there are hundreds of CRM systems out there, and implementing them properly is a challenge, but is something that, once done correctly, will make your sales processes so much more efficient. So some of the things that all three of these and most all CRMs can do is to take leads from your website and then do predictive analysis of their buying intent from that. So not only can you get buying intent from lead sources that are separate, but then also within your CRM, you can drive buying intent, and these differing systems do it in different ways, but they will score when someone visits your website based on the different things that they do within your website, how likely they are to buy from you. So it's amazing intelligence, and then gives your salespeople the ability to take that information and respond to the hottest leads that are lower. You can do other drip campaigns and other marketing to them to drive that number up. So from a content creation and a sales environment, I don't recommend encouraging people to just use ChatGPT and take it word for word and plop it into an email or a blog post. I think that it is an amazing efficiency augmenter, in that one of the things that I use it for is ideation and helping. I tend to have a tendency to have writer's block and not be able to get those first few sentences out. ChatGPT and the other LLMs that are out there are amazing for that. So can also help with emails and responding to emails, especially the ones that I like are the ones that are difficult, because again, writer's block, someone has an issue, and how do you appropriately respond to that? It will help to start that. I definitely recommend not just hitting the send button as soon as you copy and paste it, but absolutely helps in speed and the creativity of how you respond to people. And the latest version of ChatGPT is ChatGPT 4.0. It's astonishing how well that system can articulate the English language. So if you haven't been using it, I would encourage going out and using it. A caveat to that, and something that you've probably seen quite a bit of in the news, if you use either the free version, which 3.5 of ChatGPT is available just to use for free, the 4.0 version, you can use a $20 per month version, but that information it's not public, but it's all fed back to ChatGPT and then can become ultimately public. So what I encourage people to use is the ChatGPT for Teams, and it's a little more expensive version. It's $25 per user, but then that stays private to you. And I want to make sure I save time here at the end for questions, and definitely jot down any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer any of those. So customer service, this is my least favorite of what people are using AI for right now. And I think this is my Midwestern upbringing. I grew up in a tiny little town here in Iowa, and I think that we still need to be able to talk in person. But you can use chat bots, and this is happening. I mean, probably, and I'm just guessing here, I don't have any hard stats on this, but I would guess 70 to 80% of the chat bots that you interact with are AI. So what they'll do, they use what's called a RAG model. It's retrieval augmented generative AI. And companies will take their entire knowledge base, feed it into ChatGPT, for example, in this RAG model, the retrieval augmented generative AI, and then it will give answers as if it actually knows what the company does. So it's not great, and it is an efficiency gain, and especially if you think about, I'll pick on Delta Airlines, for example, who had massive problems from the CrowdStrike incident here a couple of weeks ago. But using a Delta Airlines, and rather than having 12,000 customer service reps, if they can reduce that down to 3,000 reps and have AI answer a bunch of those questions, they're going to do it. And depending on your businesses, could be something that you implement. I personally think, in my company, we still have a human that actually answers the phone. Will we do that forever? I hope so, but maybe not. So efficiency gain is another massive accelerator for your businesses that can drive growth, because it's all about scalability. So in my personal experience of being able to take a security operations center team from 14 down to 1, and this is in cybersecurity, we take in on a daily basis, even if you have the smallest of companies with, say, 25 employees, you've got cloud services, you've got all the laptops, all the servers, all of your Microsoft 365 or Google, all of that, all of those systems are generating log files to the tune of millions of entries per day. And so historically, what we've had to do in cybersecurity is analyze all of those log files. And that's why going from 14 people down to 1 has now been possible, because you can use AI to analyze all of that massive amount of data and determine from that these what are called indicators of compromise. And so there's, in any given day, your businesses are being attacked hundreds of times from either bots, actual hackers, systems that are just looking for how can we get in. And so all of these cybersecurity systems look at those logs, look for indicators of compromise, and say, hey, go block that. And that's how we were able to go from 14 down to 1, is having those systems do that and automatically do it. And happy to, like, any of you that have questions when we get here to the end about your specific business and how you might be able to implement something like this, probably not going to be able to give you a detailed answer that you can go implement, but at least can start on it. So AI agents, so this is going to be the next evolution of what we see in the current iterations of AI that exist. So AI agents are components that go and actually do something for you. So like the Tesla's self-driving car, that uses several different AI agents to be able to accomplish that. But things that we'll see coming online and that are out there today, they're not great yet, but they're getting much better. So this is something that I want you all to keep in mind over the next 2 to 3 years. Things like being able to read your email and auto-respond. I think that is coming. I mean, some of those exist today. Again, I see some smiles out there of people that may have used those, and I'm not currently using those. I actually use human intelligence to do that. So that is coming. Other examples are planning for trips. So these AI agents will actually implement solutions for you and on your behalf. We're starting to see that now. It's going to explode over the next 2 to 3 years. So in development, if any of you have development staff, they should already be using the AI tools that exist out there to help in development. So I don't develop myself personally anymore, but the reports from my developers, friends that are developers of mine, that they're 50 to 75% more efficient using AI in their coding. And what it essentially is doing for them is like ChatGPT, in ChatGPT is one that does this, is it's finishing that code for them. So they can start out with what they want it to write for the code, and it's going to finish it for them. And it is phenomenal in how well it does. So what I would like you all to think about is, what are your unique uses in your businesses, and how can you take what's out there today and start implementing it? And I honestly feel we're going to get to a plateau here in the next couple of years. I think these AI agents, there's going to be this massive explosion of those in the next 2 to 3 years, and we're going to hit this plateau. And the reason I say we're going to hit this plateau is because the AI scientists that are out there developing for all of this are doing it all on these large language models and not looking at how the human brain actually functions, and so that they can do all of the additional general intelligence. So I would be looking for that to come in the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, where we hit this plateau. And that's going to happen over the next 25 years. We're going to have these massive peaks like we had with ChatGPT. When it came out, we're going to hit a plateau because the next iteration, the next generation of AI isn't there yet, and then we'll bounce up again, and it's going to happen like that. So be patient, but also be on the cutting edge, in my opinion, so that you're staying on top of that. And we can do that now in Iowa. I mean, I literally had a high school graduating class of 38 in this tiny town of Traer here in Iowa, and am now able to have a global reach in my businesses. And we all have that opportunity, and that opportunity is going to increase over the next years. And why shouldn't we take advantage of that from right here in Iowa? So with that, I will open things up to questions, and hopefully, yep, in the back.
Greg, early on in your presentation, you mentioned how things we can manage it. How do you think we'll be able to manage this so that it doesn't get the negative, this all positive stuff?
Yeah, how does it not get out of control? So the question is, how do we, as humans, manage this digital species that we're creating? Is that, yeah. So it's a tough one to answer, in that it's not just us. So guardrails, like right now with ChatGPT and the LLMs that are out there, guardrails are being put in place to make sure that there's not bias in the responses, make sure that there's not racism in the responses, make sure that they're accurate. And so those guardrails are all based on what we, as the humans, tell it to do. And so it can only get out of control if we allow it. And I didn't come up with this. I've heard it from several other AI experts, in that I'm not worried about artificial intelligence. I'm worried about human stupidity. So very valid question. And I think here in the US, I do think that we will be able to control it. It's all of the potentially nefarious actors around the rest of the world that we have to be more concerned about. But we have to be, in my opinion, we have to be on the leading edge of AI development so we know what those capabilities are and that we at least know how to control it. And again, I think we're 25 years-ish out from even having that capability of AI to get out of control. So we've got some time now. That transformation, like going back to the printing press and happening over 400 years, is going to happen in 25 years. So concerning, but I'm optimistic that we will be able to control it. Yep.
This might be a silly question, but who is ChatGPT?
Who is ChatGPT? So a company called OpenAI and a guy named Sam Altman is the creator of it. And it's based in Silicon Valley here in the US. Microsoft has invested $11 billion in OpenAI. And so they have massive funding. And these large language models, so I'm not an AI scientist, I'm an implementer of AI models. But those AI models, the large language models, take hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. Meta, actually, so Facebook, has a system called Llama that is fully open source. And you could actually run Llama on a laptop and create your own AI agents with that model. So yeah, but there are, I don't even know the number of total large language models that are out there today, but it's in the dozens at least at this point. Yep.
How do you see it changing some of the technology careers? You mentioned your developers using it, so they're still going to need to know core languages from a computer science standpoint.
Yep.
But how do you see it changing some of the technology careers that have been so growth oriented?
Yeah. So the question is, what's going to happen with existing jobs that are out there, and then even a second part to that question would be, what should we have our kids be studying in college? So excellent question, and the way that I see that, so with developers, what's happening is that the less sophisticated developers are getting weeded out. So it's getting to the point where you need to have that basic understanding, and it's raising the level of the human intelligence that it takes to maximize productivity. And so I see that happening across all kinds of industries, whether it's law, accounting, development, lots and lots of industries. And it sounds negative, but I don't see it necessarily as a negative. In my opinion, it's going to raise the collective intelligence of the human population, just like the printing press did. Higher paying jobs. The potential downside is, are we going to have enough jobs to support everyone? And I believe that we will, but there's also a large, the income gap could become even greater. And so we need to be careful of those things as we move through this. And again, it's going to happen so quickly that we need to be as proactive as we can over that short time period that this is going to happen.
So what should our kids be studying?
So what should our kids be studying? Definitely computer sciences for sure. And the thing that AI needs is that human intelligence to direct it. So even things like physics and mechanical engineering, those are all critically important to augment the AI as we go forward. So it's really those more advanced solution, more advanced sciences. But I also think that we need a broad understanding of just general studies as well. I mean, like you've gotta have that balanced. I mean, those are the people that are going to excel, that are in their teens now. When they're 30, the same folks that excel now, that are well-rounded and also have expertise. Oh, yep, I think.
It was mentioned that we'll need to have ethics classes as well.
Yeah, good. Yes.
Guardrails, you're talking about things for the common good. We already have this predictive analysis where companies like Google and Facebook are gathering all kinds of digital information about people and basing advertising decisions and so on based upon that. But individuals don't have an opportunity to opt in rather than to opt out. So there are a lot of things that need to be looked at in terms of privacy protection, those kinds of issues as we move forward.
Agreed. And right now, so there are now 7 states in the U.S. that have privacy laws that are all different. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, managing all, and I see Ryan here with De Novo going, yeah, he's dealing with that on a daily basis. I'm sure Kirk deals with that from Metro. So right now, only 7 states in the U.S. have privacy laws that are on the books and being enacted. Every single one of those is different. So managing those opt-in, opt-out, and what you have to do on a state-by-state basis, and then all of the other countries in the world, if you work internationally, you have to deal with. So are we going to get to a point where we have regulation that actually functions just here in the U.S.? I think that we will get there. We've got bigger problems right now that need to be worked through. But I do think that, again, over that 25-year span, I think that we will have, at least in the U.S., have common regulation that helps to regulate that.
I see the danger that we can't distinguish reality from fantasy with AI, the way things can be manipulated and changed.
Yeah, and that is already happening, and that misinformation is already happening. So we as human intelligent beings have to be able to decipher what's true and what's not true, and that is becoming more and more difficult. The way I personally do it, I don't take any single news story as fact, and will do my own fact checking. And I would encourage everyone to do that. I'm going to grab a water. I'm losing my voice up here. I've been talking too much already this morning. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess my question is related to that, which is, and it's not just AI. As humans, we often create unintended consequences, whether it's the legislation we pass or whatever. So, are there entities, are there groups out there that are trying to project? I'd love to see predictive analysis for, the things we didn't think would happen.
Yeah. So most of the individuals that are at the pinnacle of creating these systems, like Sam Altman, are pushing for regulation. And they are saying, and they being the CEOs and the AI scientists that are creating these models, are saying we need regulation. And so we currently don't have it. I do absolutely believe over the next 25 years that we'll get there. And there's going to be setbacks in this. There's going to be plateaus. And we, as business owners, need to be understanding of where that's all going. So being here today, this is a great start in understanding what's coming and staying abreast to what's going to unfold. So absolutely, there's concerns, but I'm very optimistic about being able to manage, and again, as a human species, and I'm thinking globally, of how we keep this under control. And it's not hard from a development standpoint to keep it under control. I mean, putting the guardrails there, I mean, that's easy. It's managing the potentially nefarious actors that are out there. And so one analogy that I like to use in that regulation is when we think about automobiles over the last 50 years. The first car that I had was a '66 Mustang that didn't even have seatbelts in it. And the first seatbelt laws came out when I was in high school, and we had to put seatbelts in the thing. And if you think about how much safer automobiles have become over the last 50 years, that's how I see the progression of regulation within AI. Now, again, we're talking a much shorter time frame even than automobile technology. So I think that we'll get there. It's just a matter of exactly how we implement those regulations.
Well, and using that analogy, we're gonna learn the same way, right? There were automobiles that were made that were awful. That
Yeah.
have gone down in history as really, really bad engineered automobiles. We're gonna have people go too far and make some mistakes, and then we're gonna learn from those mistakes as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, we in this room are not stopping it. I mean, this is happening, and this is going to change how we live our lives and how the human species functions over the next 200 years. And we have the opportunity, we're not going to stop it, but we have the opportunity to be involved in how that develops over the, and this is the most critical, I mean, this is like being in 1440, sitting in Johann Gutenberg's lab, like we're here for this. So that's why I'm optimistic. Yep.
As a smaller medium business owner, what would you say that they will see as the biggest impact of the AI over the next maybe 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, so the biggest impact that I see, so the question is, what will small businesses see as the biggest impact over the next 5 years, 10 years, 5 to 10 years? It's going to be that efficiencies of scale in what your people are able to do. So profit margins are going to be squeezed by your competitors. If your competitors are using AI and they're able to accomplish the same results with 10 people instead of you needing 50 people to do that, then you're not going to be competitive. So that's probably the biggest difference that I see is those, if you're not implementing the potential efficiency gains within your specific industry that can be gained from AI, then you're not going to be profitable. So hopefully that doesn't sound too dystopian for everybody, but again, start implementing these things. Yep.
So let's say you're not a day one user, but someone who has used Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, what would be one takeaway from today for a use case that we could start to leverage?
Do you mind sharing what kind of business you're in?
So we're in wealth management.
Wealth management. So within wealth management, the summarization of reports, and so I'm sure for your, you probably get a report for every one of your clients, either quarterly or monthly or something along those lines. One thing that you could start using today would be summarization of those reports. So when you go to meet with a client, you can take that report and summarize it with ChatGPT 4.0 Teams, so it's private, and get those snippets so that you're ready, so that you don't have to read that whole report. Let AI read it. So I mean that's one example, but I mean you also could be looking at your entire client base and optimizing for the best type of client that you want. So, I mean, those are a couple of examples just off the cuff, and something that I didn't talk about in the presentation. I don't think I did anyway. My own human intelligence acting up. Summarization is, I use it if I need to review a legal document. Put it in a chat GPT, and it's good. So good, what's called prompting within chat GPT and the LLMs is very important. So being explicitly specific about what you're asking for and giving the system an out if it doesn't know the answer is really important. So what I mean by that is, trying to think of a specific example. If you, because you now can feed pictures into it, if you tell ChatGPT, you feed it a picture of a flower and say, what is this flower? It's going to give you an answer that may or may not be right. And so you want to give it an out of what kind of flower is this, and if you don't know, give me the top 5 options. So giving it that optionality. And in summarization, a good way to start your prompt is specifically to tell it, don't make anything up. So only use what I'm about to feed in brackets, and do not add any other facts. So being very specific in what you're asking it and giving it an out, giving it optionality.
One more question? Have you had the opportunity to use any of like the hardware, like the pin or like the rabbit?
So I haven't yet. So the question is, have I had a chance to use any of the hardware that's out there? So there's a system called the Rabbit that it basically interacts with your daily life, and it essentially is summarization, but in real time of your life that's happening. I have not, because I'm a little uncomfortable with that yet, but that, speaking of those AI agents, those are going to be coming fast and furious. I'm working with a company called Telly that is developing a television that it's got your top screen, and then it's got a lower screen that's only like this wide, but the full length, and it has AI built into it to predict, what do you want. And it allows you, it's almost like your menu system, but in a separate screen with AI built into it. Of course, they're monetizing it through ads, so we'll see how unbiased it is. But I mean, those kind of systems, the hardware interacting with our lives, and then ultimately getting to robots and Jarvis someday. I think we'll see in our lifetimes.
Can we give Greg a round of applause? Thank you so much for putting this into context. I think you've done a great job of letting us know, what else can we compare it to and anticipate how rapid that change is going to come about, but that these things are sticking around, and how can we not be scared of them? So lots of interesting conversations to be had on this topic. So thanks again, Greg. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you coming out to our Hiawatha Business Summits. These do happen quarterly, and our final event of the year will be November 19th out at Stillwater Cafe. That's our Q4 happy hour, so we'll be doing that at 4 o'clock instead of a morning program. That topic is still to be announced, but mark your calendars and plan to join us on the 19th. These summits are a collaboration between the Hiawatha Economic Development Corporation, the City of Hiawatha, and the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance. So thank you again for attending, and thank you, Kirkwood, for hosting us here today and putting us in touch with Greg. We really appreciate you hosting, and then always our friends at Metro Studios for recording these summits. So if you know somebody who couldn't make it today, or you want to revisit some of this maybe with your staff or colleagues, in a couple of weeks we'll have that up on the HEDCO website, and you can also see those previous economic or Hiawatha Business Summit recordings if you want to go back in time. So thank you for spending your morning with us. And don't forget that there's still tickets available for the Hiawatha State of the City this Thursday. So thanks so much for spending your morning with us.